Hi, my name is Riley Allen. This is my review of Game of Thrones Daenerys 1. So, Daenerys is 13. And she is the daughter of King Aerys and Queen Rhaella. She is the younger sister of Rhaegar and Viserys. Her brother Rhaegar was killed by Robert. Aerys was killed by Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer, and they were basically sent off running. She recounts that she was born in a storm, which gave her the nickname Stormborn, and how they fled the usurper, that's what they call Robert, with the help of Sir Willem Derry, who proceeded to die not long, maybe a couple years after, leaving their wealth to be stolen by the servants and them being traveling around place to place. Eventually, with people being happy to, support the last Targaryens until, they kind of realized that Robert was there to stay, so they just pushed him away. I love that we get to see Daenerys' rose-colored view of what happened to the rebellion and her family. Viserys sucks. He proceeds to molest his 13-year-old sister by twisting her nipple. I know he dies. I do know that Viserys dies in this book. I can't wait to get there. I already want him dead. First page he's on, I want him dead. Yep. I also love that Daenerys seems to know what's up. Like, she is looking at all these gifts from Illyrio, who they're living with, and she's like, I've heard things about Illyrio. I've heard that he doesn't have a friend that he wouldn't cheerfully betray for the right price. So he wants to know what his price is for taking care of them. And Viserys doesn't get that. Viserys is kind of paranoid, but at the same time not paranoid enough. He's paranoid about the usurper's knives, which I don't know. I don't think they exist by Robert himself. I think there are hired knives, maybe a couple, not as many as Viserys would think. I think a cutthroat here or there, and they weren't even hired knives. I don't believe. I think it's a cutthroat, maybe trying to go after him, kill him, and to gain favor and just not succeed and decide to say fuck it. Because if Robert or Tywin sent an assassin after them, they'd be dead. That's my theory on it. So they're taken to the manse because she's going to be marrying a mansion or whatever, because she's gonna be marrying Khal Drogo, and they want to introduce him to Khal Drogo. And we get to see more of Viserys' naivety. He foolishly thinks that he'd only need 10,000 of the Khalasar. Buddy, you're gonna need all 40,000 plus some. Because I don't know the numbers exactly, but I know at least for sure the Westerlands, the North, the Riverlands, the Vale, and the Stormlands and Groundlands could absolutely field way more than that. Plus the Reach. The only two iffy ones would be Dorne and the Iron Islands. I believe Dorne would go join them though, because if there's a Khalasar raiding, they're going to be smart enough to be like, hey, no, that's not something they want in on, even if it's a Targaryen, even if it is leading to revenge. That's the one thing he is right about. Doran probably does want revenge. It's just, yeah. Another thing. He believes that the small folk cheer for his name and people hide banners. And I think it is true. I think we later learn that House Derry is still loyal. But that's because House Derry was risen to heights by the Targaryens and driven low by the Baratheons. Of course they're going to want the Targaryens back. But the small folk don't give a shit who sits the crown, who's the lord of whatever. They care about how they're going to be able to feed their families today, the next day, and the day after that. If you don't hinder them from continuing to do what they need to do, they're going to like you. If you hinder them, they're not going to like you, and they're going to cheer for your successor and your downfall. But most people don't give a shit about the small folk, is what we're going to learn from these books, I believe. Viserys is a dick. He tells his sister straight to her face, I'd let all 40,000 members and their horses fuck you if that's what it takes to get my throne back. Dude, this guy sucks. I hate this guy. We're also introduced to Jorah Mormont, and I'm confused. Magister Illyrio says that he's a knight anointed in the 7 oils. Which I think is, by the High Septon himself, which I think is... In knighthood, you have to do like a vigil or whatever, a walking vigil. Some type of vigil at the sept, be anointed. But I don't think that's what Jorah Mormont did. He doesn't follow the faith of the 7, and he was knighted after the Battle of Pike by Robert Baratheon, who, again, probably only pays lip service to the faith. I'm under the impression that a battlefield knighting is different than a regular knighting. Like, you're a squire, and your knights decided that you're ready to knighthood. So now, because it's peacetime, you gotta do the dance, the circus, all the monkey. You gotta do the entire circus and deal with all the monkeys and shit. But Jorah Mormont was knighted after a battle. So I just imagine, and I imagine that the anointing with the oils and bullshit, whatever, is standing vigil is only special occasions or some shit. Like, really, there's nothing better to do, so we can't really get out of it. Can't really find a reason to get out of it, so you gotta do it. I think Robert just drew his sword, knighted Jorah Mormont, and that was that. I think this is less about him, Magister Illyrio, lying, and more about him just not understanding, like, the different culture of the Faith of the 7, and the old gods, and the difference on how he was knighted. Also, maybe he does, and he's just pumping Jorah Mormont up to make him seem more important. Like, he was anointed by the High Septon himself. I don't know. Or maybe I just don't understand how knighthood works. Or how knighting works. I don't know. I haven't read about it. I've read about it a little bit from the books. But not a lot, so I don't know. Also, Jorah Mormont's a piece of shit. Another thing. He's wanted by the usurper. Not true. He's wanted by Ned Stark. Again, I think that's less about Illyrio not knowing and more about him raising him up. Because instead of being wanted by Ned Stark, who's just a lord, he's wanted directly by the king. He's wanted for selling poachers into slavery. Yeah. I feel bad for the poachers. I mean, we don't even know about their situation. Like, what were they poaching? Were they just hunting deer? Poor guys. Might have just been trying to eat. And then Magister Illyrio, the piece of shit, says, a man should be able to do whatever he wants with his cattle. Ugh. When does he die? Unfortunately, not, because he's still alive in the books, unfortunately. But damn, he sucks. And Daenerys also reveals that technically slavery is illegal in Pentos. It's just like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, we still got slaves. What are you gonna do about it, huh? So instead of like having slaves, these aren't my slaves. These are my servants who are paid with room and board and food. Not very good rooms, not very good food. And their pay? We don't do that here. Yeah. Overall, I really enjoyed being inside of Daenerys' mind, other than the uncomfortableness of being in the same room as Viserys, because that guy sucks. I'm gonna give this chapter an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching the video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want, and I'll see you in the next video.